Mangalam sadhu veshaya shishya chitta vilasine vidita kila vedyaya moksha vigna vighatine Saumya Kashi nivasaya deshikaya viragine Chaitanyananda rupaya jivan muktaya mangalam Om Shanti 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 Om Apyayantu mamangani Vakpranashchakshushrotramato balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastu Anirakaraname Astu Tadatmani Nirate Ya Upanishatsu Dharmaste Mai Santu Te Mai Santu Om Shanti 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 Shri Sadguru Maharaj Ki Jai. Good morning. Today I want to ask you if you're awake. A couple of days ago, I have created some confusion, I believe. I said that actions cannot lead to liberation. That was the morning I gave you the story about that poor guy who found the treasure and all this. I said that action cannot lead to liberation because action is contrary to knowledge. Action is based on ignorance. And therefore, even actions such as meditation, pranayama, asana, service, etc., cannot really lead to liberation because they are still action, they are still based on ignorance, they are still based on the identification with the body and the mind. So this is what I said. But I forgot to say, I forgot to say that they are still important. Yeah, because I see people are not coming anymore to morning satsang. I didn't understand what is going on. Now I understand. So why do we do what we do? What is the purpose of all these practices? What is the purpose of pranayama, asana, meditation, etc.? The answer is that the purpose of sadhana is the purification of the mind. The purpose of sadhana is the purification of the mind. The mind is full of impurities, is full of rajas and tamas. And the removal of these, the purification of the mind, the purification of the heart, is the result of sadhana, is the result of practice. Knowledge of the self is something else. Knowledge of the self is the end of ignorance. Now, as long as the mind is impure, as long as the mind is full of impurities, there is no room for realization of the self. And therefore, we have to purify the mind. We have to do sadhana, we have to practice to purify the mind. What I said is that purification itself is not enough. Purification itself is not knowledge. Okay? So, I want to start with today's topic. We are starting with the second part. Basically, we have today and tomorrow left to finish the last three parts. Please repeat after me. Yadi manyase suvedeti daharameva apinunam tvam veta brahmano rupam yadasya tvam yadasya deveshu atanu mimagumsyameva te manye viditam. Now, after the teacher told the student that Brahman is different than the known, that Brahman is not that thing which people are worshipping. After the teacher explains the difficulty of talking about Brahman, which is not an object, now the teacher is worried that the student has some misunderstanding. And therefore, he says, Yadi manyase, if you believe, if you think, Suveda iti, if you think, I know very well, what I know very well? I know Brahman very well. Daharameva apinunam tvam veta Brahmano rupam. Then what you know is not Brahman. If you think you know Brahman well, what you know is only the little expression that it has in the body, and and yadasya tvam devasya deveshu, and the little expression that it has among the gods. The point is that the teacher is telling the student, listen, if you think you know Brahman well now after our discussion, then you don't know it. You know only the little expression of it. You know only some expression, like this world is an expression of Brahman, as we have explained. You may know that, but you don't know Brahman as it is. So the teacher is warning the student. He says, if you think you know it well, then you don't know it. You know just something else. So what the student says? Te manye viditam. The student is answering the teacher. He says, I think I know it well. So after the warning of the teacher, if you think you know it well, you don't know it, the student says, I think I know it well. But now the student explains in a very, very beautiful, a little subtle explanation, but we'll see how the student explains itself. Please repeat after me. Naham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedacha yonas tadveda tadveda no na vedeti vedacha. The student says, Na aham manye suveda iti. He says, I don't think I know well. Okay? The teacher says, if you think you know well, then you don't know. So he says, no, I don't think I know well. Okay? But, no na vedeti vedacha. It is not that I do not know. Also, I don't say I know, but I say that it is not true that I don't know. I know and I do not know as well. This is what he says. Okay, I will repeat it. Student says, I don't think I know very well Brahman. Okay, this is what you have said. But it is not that I do not know Brahman. I know it and I do not know it. And then he says, Yo naha tadveda tadveda. He among us who understand this sentence, what sentence? No na vedeti vedacha. Not that I do not know, I know and I do not know. One who understands this sentence, he really knows it. Got it? I will say it again. He among us means students. He among us who understand the sentence that I have just said, not that I do not know, I know and I do not know, he knows. So what is he saying? The student is finding himself in the same difficulty that the teacher found himself before. If you remember, the teacher had a difficulty to express when he was asked, Kene shitam patati preshitam manaha kena prana pratama praiti yuktaha. The teacher was asked, who is the director of the prana, the director of the mind, who is driving the senses to their objects and all this. And he found it difficult to answer because Brahman, which is the ground of all this, cannot be expressed, cannot be verbalized. So he told the student, Na tatra chakshur gachati na vagachati no manaha na vidmo na vijanimo yathai tadanushishya. Na vidmaha na vijanimaha yatha etadanushishya. We do not know how to instruct you about it. There is nothing we can say. And now the student finds himself in a similar difficulty because the teacher is telling him, listen, if you think you know well, you don't know. Now the student got the teaching. As I told you in the beginning, this is the first-class student. This student is the highest form of student that is there. And he got the teachings. But now he cannot tell his guru, I got the teachings, because the guru just told him, if you think you know, then it means you don't know. So he cannot say, I know. But he cannot say, I don't know the truth. Why? Because he knows. You see, this is a very good message for us. Because many times, people go to real sadhus, real saints, people who are very spiritually high, and they ask him, did you realize the self? Now, what such a person can tell you? Suppose he says, yes, I have realized the self. What does it mean? It means he didn't. Why? Because who is that who realized the self? This is the ego. Is it not? When I say, yeah, I have realized the self, I'm so good. What does it mean? It means that I am identifying with this body and mind, and I think I'm so special I have realized something. Which basically means I am not. But can such a person says, no, I have not realized the self. That's it. That is as stupid as the other one. Because the one who says I have not realized the self is again the ego. So one who is not identified with the ego cannot answer this question. Therefore, Swami Shivananda, when he was asked, when did you realize the self? He said, this is a secret between me and God. And Swami Chaitanyananda used to say, for stupid question, you get stupid answer. Yeah, you cannot. What you are asking a question which is irrelevant. Now the student here is finding himself in a similar difficulty, trying to express his realization. So he says, I cannot tell you I know very well, because it will be false. But I cannot tell you also that I don't know. That will also be false. Therefore, I'm telling you I know and I do not know. And then he adds, if somebody understands this saying, not that I do not know, I know and I do not know as well, that person really understands. Okay? So, this is what the student is saying. And now, the Upanishad itself, this is now, according to Shankaracharya, the end of the discussion between the student and the teacher. Now the Upanishad itself continues and giving us some more mantras. Next mantra, mantra number 3 in the second part. Let's chant it together. Yasya matam, tasya matam, matam yasya, na vedasaha, avijñatam, vijanatam, vijñatam, avijanatam. This is a very beautiful mantra and very easy to memorize. Anybody who wants a little bit to memorize Sanskrit verses, this is a good one. The Upanishad is telling us, Yasya amatam tasya matam. One who do not know it alone knows. Matam yasya naveda saha. One who knows it, he doesn't know. Again, one who do not know it, he alone knows. And one who knows it doesn't know it at all. And then it enforces, it elaborates, or say the similar thing in a different words. Avijñatam vijanatam. It is unknown to those who know. Vijñatam avijanatam. And it is known to those who do not know. Okay? What is the mantra telling us? Basically, it is kind of a sweet summary of what we have been discussing so far. It says, the knowledge of the self is not the knowledge of an object. When you know an object, there is what is called in Sanskrit triputi. Triputi means the Trinity. There is the knower, the known, and the knowing. When I know a pen, I am the knower, the pen is the known, and the knowing is the process of perception. Okay? These three are present in the case of the knowledge of object. But when we talk about Brahman, Brahman is what? Brahman is the knower. Is it not? Brahman is pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is the knower. Is it the knower or the known? When you want to know Brahman, you need for this a separate knower. Is it not? If you want to know the knower, you need a separate knower. You need to objectify the knower. You need another subject. You need another knower to know it. Where is that knower? There is no such a knower. And therefore, it is not possible to have this triputi, to have this distinction between the knower, the known, and knowing. And therefore, knowing Brahman is not possible in the sense of ordinary knowledge. Therefore, the Veda is telling us it is unknown to those who know it. Those who think I know, those who have this sense of knowledge, of understanding, they know nothing. On the other hand, those who remove all sense of knowingness and just remain in the presence, in the being of the self, they know. Okay? I find it very beautiful and very interesting verse. Now comes, you see, today we are a little faster because there is a lot to cover. Anyway. Now the next mantra, mantra number 4, is also a very important one. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hivindate atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate mritam. Pratibodha vidita matam amritatvam hi vindate. Pratibodha means with every perception. Our mind is constantly processing information and presenting it before consciousness. And each such perception or each such thought is taken as a perception. Okay? You can think about it like the mind is a big eye that is observing without any change. But before it, the mind is presenting constantly different content. And each such change is called a perception. And there are many, many perceptions passing very, very fast, very quickly before consciousness. The Upanishad is telling us when each and every such a perception, viditam matam, is done through knowledge, through understanding, then amritatvam hi vindate, then one attains immortality. When one attains immortality, when one knows each perception. What is the meaning of it? Normally, usually, we tend to identify with the mind and the body, but particularly with the mind. And we become the thinker. We become the thinker, we become the thought. When we identify with the mind, we are becoming the thoughts. We think the thought is who am I? There is a little voice, a little sound that is going on in my mind and commenting, giving a commentary on life. Is it not? When you sit for meditation and you sit quiet, you close your eyes, what happens? Then you become aware of this chatter that is going on continuously in your mind. Is it not? What happens is that we identify with this voice. We identify with this, basically this is the intellect, this is the ego. We identify with it completely, thinking that this is who am I, this is me, which is wrong. which is the result of ignorance, the result of disidentification. But when we understand a little bit, when we study Vedanta and we understand the theory to some extent, it is possible to stop this identification, to step aside and stop being a participant, stop being the thought, and start being a witnessing consciousness, an observer. Consciousness is being described in some scripture as a witnessing consciousness. Witnessing in the sense that it is not involved in thinking. It is not an actor, it is not a doer, it is not undergoing any process. It is just a witness, sitting aloof and observing the changes that are taking place in the mind. When we sit for meditation, and later on also in other times, it is possible to stop this identification with the thought and step aside and become an observer. At that time, you are not identifying with the thought. You are not taking yourself to be the thinker, to be the thought. But you are just a witnessing consciousness, observing. Okay? When we do that, we are no more identifying with the mind. Now, the Upanishad is telling us when in relation to every perception that is passing through the mind, there is no identification and you are remaining as the witness in consciousness, then that leads you to immortality. So immortality we have explained already the other day. Immortality means self-realization. It's not that the body becomes immortal, because the body is not immortal. Even the mind is not immortal. They are perishable, but you are not the body and the mind. So realizing it is like becoming immortal. It is like in the story of the poor guy. When he realized the box of gold under his floor, he became a millionaire. Truly, he didn't become a millionaire. He was a millionaire before, but he didn't know it. In the same manner, once we realize our true nature, we become immortal, because we were always immortal. So this is a practice. What is the practice? The practice is to step aside from our thought and not identifying with them. Not identify with them. To become a witness, an observer. It is possible. The problem is our forgetfulness. When we practice it, when you practice it, you will see that you are able to do it for a short while, and then the mind goes back to its habit and again identifies. So you have to pull it again and again and again and again, and this is the practice. And slowly, with practice, you will be able to hold this witnessing state, that you are no more identified with the thoughts. At that time, thoughts are not a problem. You know, in Raja Yoga, yesterday Swami Swarupananda mentioned, in Raja Yoga, thoughts are a problem. You have to control them. In Jnana Yoga, in Vedanta, thoughts are not a problem. Identification with them is the problem. As long as you are identifying with the thought, you are in ignorance. But if you are witnessing consciousness, if you are aware of the thoughts, then the thought is not a problem. It's not binding you anymore. It's not who you are. It's not you. You are just an observer. Another thing happens when you stop to identify with the thought. The thought wanes out. What I have 50 seconds, so I will tell it quickly. When you identify with the thought, your identification and the emotion that invested into it is giving energy and fueling the thought. It is giving power to the thought. And therefore, when you sit for meditation and you try not to think, the thoughts will assault you because you are giving them more power. By trying not to think, you are giving more power to the thought. Right? If I tell you now, think about whatever you want, but don't think about monkeys. What are you going to think about? Only monkeys. Why? Because you are trying not to, and that gives energy to it. But when you become a witness, you don't give any energy, any power to the thought will wane away, wane out. It will disappear. So this is a very powerful practice that the Upanishad is teaching us here. This is something that we need to start on the cushion and then bring it into our life. Okay? So we have to stop here. The second line is just saying Atmana vindate viryam. Through the self, one gets strength. And vidyaya vindate amritam. Through knowledge, one gets immortality. So through the self, through practice and self-mastery, one gets strength. But the way for realization is through knowledge. Through knowledge, one will get immortality. Okay, this mantra. It is a very important and beautiful mantra, and we are going to stop here. There is only one more mantra in this part, but we will see it tomorrow. Okay? One moment of silence. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Shri Sadguru Maharaj Ki Jai.